Captain Maya Chen kicked the scorched hull of her cargo vessel, the Horizon's Edge, and cursed her luck. The quantum drive's catastrophic failure had stranded her on Tarsus 9, a backwater mining colony where the air smelled perpetually of sulfur and desperation. The local repair chief, a burly man with oil-stained coveralls, shook his head as he handed her an estimate that made her stomach drop. "These parts aren't standard issue, Captain. We'd have to fabricate them from scratch." Maya stared at the figure on the display pad. "This would bankrupt me 3 times over. Supply and demand, Captain. Out here on the rim, specialized parts come at a premium." She tucked the pad into her jacket pocket and walked away without another word. The repair yard's gate screeched as she pushed through it, a fitting soundtrack to her unraveling career. The Horizon's Edge wasn't just her livelihood, it was her home, her freedom, and the only thing truly hers since she'd left Earth's fleet 5 years ago. The ship had carried her through asteroid belts, solar storms, and corporate blockades. Now it sat useless in Docking Bay 7, its quantum drive reduced to an expensive paperweight. Maya made her way through Tarsus 9's cramped streets, where prefabricated shelters clustered beneath the shadow of massive mining equipment. Workers in environmental suits trudged past her, their faces obscured by protective masks necessary in the colony's barely terraformed atmosphere. The colony's only bar, ironically named Last Resort, offered synthetic whiskey that burned like industrial solvent. Maya claimed a corner booth and nursed her drink, calculating how long her remaining credits would last. 2 weeks of lodging fees, maybe 3 if she cut back on food. Not nearly enough time to arrange alternative transport or secure an emergency loan from her usual contacts. "You look like someone whose ship isn't leaving anytime soon." Maya glanced up to find the colonial administrator standing over her table. Administrator Keller was a woman with shrewd eyes and a network of scars across her hands, souvenirs from the colony's early days. "Word travels fast," Maya replied. "Small colony." Keller slid into the booth uninvited. "Quantum drive failure, I hear. Nasty business." Maya took another sip of her drink. "Unless you're offering a miracle discount on repair costs, I'm not in a socializing mood." "Better than a discount." Keller leaned forward, voice dropping. "There's someone who might help, an alien engineer living in the outskirts." "And why would this mysterious engineer succeed where your repair crew failed?" "Because she's Valdurian." Keller watched Maya's expression change. "I see you're familiar with the species." Everyone in space knew about Valdurians, a reclusive, technologically advanced species who rarely ventured beyond their own systems. Their understanding of quantum mechanics supposedly surpassed humanity's by centuries. "What's a Valdurian doing on this rock?" Maya asked. "That's her business. All I know is she's helped others with impossible repairs. People say she works miracles with tech most humans can barely comprehend. There's a catch, isn't there? Valdurians don't exactly have a reputation for charity." Keller nodded. "She never works for credits. She always wants something else, favors, artifacts, information. The price varies." Maya's fingers tapped against her glass. "Where do I find her?" "Follow the eastern ridge beyond the mining perimeter. There's a workshop built into the cliffside. Can't miss it. Doesn't look human-made." Keller stood to leave. "I'd take a water purifier and good boots. It's a half-day hike through the desert." "Why are you telling me this?" Maya called after her. Keller paused. "Tarsus 9 benefits from independent traders like you. Besides, your stuck ship is taking up a valuable docking bay." As the administrator disappeared into the crowd, Maya stared into her drink, The rational part of her brain listed all the reasons to be suspicious. Unknown alien, mysterious payment, dangerous trek through hostile terrain. But the alternative was watching her ship, her life, waste away in docking bay 7. She drained her glass and stood up. She'd need supplies for the journey, and daylight was already fading. Tomorrow, she'd find this Valdurian engineer and either negotiate her salvation or confirm her ruin. The twin suns of Tarsus 9 had barely crested the horizon when Maya set out, her pack filled with water purifiers, nutrient bars, and a portable nav unit. The colony's eastern perimeter was marked by a simple warning sign, "Authorized personnel only." Maya stepped past it without hesitation. The amber desert stretched before her like a vast ocean, heat waves already distorting the distant ridgeline. Her boots sank slightly into the fine sand with each step. Despite the environmental filters of her lightweight mask, the air tasted of minerals and rust. By midday, the temperature had climbed beyond what her cooling suit could comfortably manage. Sweat collected at her collar as she rationed water more strictly than planned. The ridge seemed no closer, a cruel optical illusion of this alien landscape. "Should have hired a transport," she muttered, checking her nav unit again. The screen flickered with interference, another charming quality of Tarsus 9's mineral-rich geology. When her water supply dwindled dangerously low, Maya spotted an unusual formation along the cliffside ahead. At first, she thought it was a natural rock formation, but as she drew closer, the structure's deliberate design became apparent. Unlike the boxy, utilitarian architecture of the human colony, this building seemed to flow from the cliff itself, its curves and spirals reminiscent of a nautilus shell. No visible door presented itself, just a seamless facade of material that wasn't quite metal or stone. Maya approached cautiously, her hand resting on the pulse pistol at her hip. Before she could contemplate how to announce her presence, a section of the wall spiraled open. "Human visitors are rare. King a voice from within. Enter before the day's heat claims you." Maya stepped into blessed coolness. The interior was dimly lit, with light sources she couldn't immediately identify, creating a blue-green ambience. As her eyes adjusted, shadows parted to reveal her host. The Valdurian stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silver skin that seemed to ripple like mercury when she moved. Her body was slender but solid, suggesting a density greater than human flesh. Most striking were her eyes, large iridescent orbs that reflected light in hypnotic patterns. "I am Zera," the alien said, her voice carrying harmonious undertones that made Maya think of crystal chimes. "You have traveled far today." Captain Maya Chen of the independent cargo vessel Horizon's Edge. Maya removed her mask and straightened her posture. "Administrator Keller suggested you might help with my ship repairs." Zera's 6-fingered hand gestured toward a curved bench. "Sit. Hydrate. Then we will discuss your vessel." A container of clear liquid appeared on a nearby surface. Maya hesitated. "It is water," Zera assured her, "filtered to human standards." Maya took a careful sip, then a longer drink when the coolness hit her parched throat. Zera moved to a console, unlike any computer interface Maya had seen, manipulating light patterns with fluid hand movements. "Your quantum drive," Zera said. "Do you have schematics?" Maya pulled out her datapad and transmitted the technical specifications. The light patterns around Zera's hands rearranged themselves, forming what appeared to be a 3-dimensional model of the Horizon's Edge drive system. "The resonator has fractured along its dimensional fold," Zera observed, her fingers expanding a section of the hologram. "A common failure in your model when stressed beyond recommended parameters." Can you repair it? Maya asked bluntly. Zera's silver lips formed what might have been a smile. Yes, 14 solar cycles will be sufficient. And your price? Maya braced herself. I require no currency, Zera replied, her iridescent eyes locking onto Maya's. Only your assistance afterward with a simple retrieval mission. Every instinct warned Maya to walk away, but the thought of her ship sitting broken in the colony docks overrode her caution. What kind of retrieval? She pressed. All in due time, Captain. Zera extended her 6-fingered hand. Do we have an agreement? Maya hesitated only briefly before clasping the alien's cool, metallic palm. She had just sealed a bargain whose consequences she couldn't possibly foresee. Maya arranged for daily supply deliveries to Zera's workshop rather than making the punishing desert trek repeatedly. Administrator Keller raised an eyebrow at the 2-week time frame, but asked no questions when processing Maya's request for temporary residence authorization in the outskirts. The repair process became an unexpected education. Maya watched in fascination as Zera disassembled the quantum drive components with tools that seemed to anticipate her needs before she reached for them. Some devices appeared to be extensions of Zera herself, responding to subtle shifts in her silver skin's electrical conductivity. Your species builds impressive machines. Zera commented while recalibrating the drive's phase harmonics, but you integrate them rather than truly bonding with them. What do you mean by bonding? Maya asked, handing Zera a microfusion spanner that looked more like jewelry than a tool. Valdurian technology responds to our bioelectric signatures. We grow our interfaces rather than fabricate them. Zera demonstrated by touching a crystalline matrix, which immediately illuminated and reorganized its structure. Your systems remain forever external to you. Not entirely, Maya countered, rolling up her sleeve to reveal a neural link port at her wrist, standard for fleet-trained pilots. Some of us connect more directly than others. Zera examined the port with obvious interest. Rudimentary, but conceptually aligned. Perhaps your species will evolve beyond buttons and switches eventually. Their conversations stretched into the evenings, revealing layers beneath Zera's reserved exterior. She spoke of leaving her homeworld after challenging traditions that kept Valdurians isolated from the galactic community. My people believe preservation requires separation, she explained while adjusting a microscopic circuit. I believe it requires adaptation. Maya found herself sharing stories of her own rebellion, resigning her commission in Earth's interstellar fleet when bureaucracy threatened to suffocate her spirit of exploration. They wanted me to transport mining equipment along the same route every month for 8 years, she recalled. The exact same route, documented in triplicate. I lasted 11 months before submitting my resignation. Your need for variation seems physiological, Zera observed. Interesting evolutionary trait. On the 9th day, Maya noticed Zera adding modifications that weren't in the original specifications. New conduits with an opalescent sheen connected to the drive's power distribution matrix. This isn't standard, Maya noted, examining the unfamiliar components. Your drive now draws power more efficiently, Zera explained. The modifications reduce quantum friction by 12%. That's not in my schematics. Your schematics are limited by human understanding of dimensional physics. There was no condescension in Zera's tone, just matter-of-fact assessment. Later that evening, Maya caught Zera studying star charts of a nearby sector, quickly dismissed when the alien noticed her presence. The region appeared to be centered around the Cerulean Nebula, a navigational nightmare that pilots called the Blue Grave for its reputation of swallowing ships. Planning a vacation. Maya asked casually. Merely refreshing my knowledge of local space, Zaira replied too smoothly. These modifications will enhance your vessel's navigation capabilities in difficult regions. Difficult regions like that nebula you were just examining. Zaira's iridescent eyes met hers. We'll need the extra thrust for regions where conventional propulsion struggles. The casual "we" didn't escape Maya's attention. Whatever Zaira's mysterious task involved, it clearly required more than a simple passenger transport. Maya considered pressing further but decided to wait. The drive was nearly repaired, and soon enough she'd learn the true price of Zaira's assistance. That night, Maya sent a coded message back to the colony, instructing her ship's AA to prepare for immediate departure upon her return. Whatever came next, she wanted the Horizon's Edge ready to fly, or flee if necessary. The quantum drive hummed with renewed life as Maya ran her final diagnostic checks. After 14 days, the heart of her ship not only functioned again, but performed better than when it had left the factory. The Horizon's Edge sat ready in Docking Bay 7, its systems purring with an efficiency Maya had never experienced before. Your modifications improved power output by 17%, Maya noted, studying the readouts. That kind of performance enhancement costs a fortune in core systems. Zaira stood beside her in the engine room, her silver form reflecting the blue glow of the quantum matrices. Considerate interest on our arrangement. The moment of truth had arrived. Maya turned to face the Valdurian. Time to discuss your retrieval mission. Zaira activated a small device on her wrist. A holographic projection filled the space between them, displaying star systems that Maya recognized from the local sector. The alien manipulated the projection, zooming in on a swirling blue mass that made Maya instinctively step back. The Cerulean Nebula, Zaira stated. Within it lies something of immeasurable value. Maya's stomach tightened. The nebula's reputation preceded it. A vast cloud of radioactive gases and electromagnetic anomalies that had claimed countless ships. Pilots called it the Blue Grave for good reason. What exactly are we retrieving? Maya asked, keeping her voice level. A Valdurian data core, Zaira replied, further manipulating the hologram to show a crystalline structure approximately the size of a human head. It contains cultural and technological knowledge that predates our recorded history. My ancestors hid it during a period of civil conflict, fearing the knowledge would be destroyed by those who opposed scientific progress. Maya studied the nebula's projection, calculating risks. The radiation field scramble navigation systems and corrode hull plating. Most ships that enter don't come out. Your ship can withstand it now. Zaira gestured to the engine room. The modifications ensure it. And you couldn't mention this before I agreed to your terms. Would you have agreed if you knew? Zaira countered. Maya conceded the point with silence. She moved to the navigation console and pulled up detailed scans of the nebula from public databases. Even with your modifications, the navigational hazards are extreme. Why take this risk for old data? Zaira's eyes took on an intensity Maya hadn't witnessed before. This artifact could end centuries of isolation, bringing my people's knowledge back into the galactic community. Some factions on my world would destroy it rather than risk cultural contamination through renewed contact with other species. Politics. It was always politics, whether human or alien. Maya had left Earth's fleet partly to escape such entanglements, yet here she was, about to dive into the middle of an alien cultural conflict. You never planned to simply hire transport, did you? Maya studied Zaira's expression. You needed someone with specific piloting skills. Zara's slight nod confirmed her suspicion. Human pilots possess intuitive navigation abilities that my people lack. Your improvisation skills make you uniquely qualified for this journey. Maya's hand moved unconsciously to her neural link port. Fleet training had given her thousands of hours navigating hazardous regions, but nothing quite like the Cerulean Nebula. The nebula is notoriously unpredictable, Maya pointed out. Sensor ghosts, time dilation effects, spontaneous energy discharges. Your calculations may not hold up in there. That, Zara said with something resembling respect, is precisely why I need a human pilot. Maya sighed, realizing she'd committed herself to far more than a simple favor. Well, my ship works again because of you. I gave my word. Let's go get your artifact. She initiated the launch sequence, silently hoping her decision wouldn't lead them both to join the countless others claimed by the Blue Grave. The Cerulean Nebula loomed before them like a vast ocean of luminescent gas, beautiful and terrifying. Swirling clouds of blue-green energies twisted and pulsed with hypnotic patterns, the outer layers occasionally flaring with electrical discharges larger than small moons. Maya's displays flickered as they approached the nebula's boundary, instruments struggling against the electromagnetic interference. The navigational computer attempted to plot a course 3 times before giving up entirely, flashing warning indicators across the console. Automated systems are already compromised, and we're still at the perimeter, Maya noted, switching several systems to manual override. This is why they call it the Blue Grave. Valdurian patrol vessel at coordinates 227.89. Zara warned from the sensor array. Their technology can detect us despite our modifications if we get too close. Maya executed a series of maneuvers that kept them in the nebula's shadow, using the electromagnetic disturbances as cover. The ship responded with unprecedented sensitivity to her neural link inputs, demonstrating why independent pilots have reputations as the best in the galaxy. Your people monitor the nebula? Maya asked, maintaining focus on their approach vector. The Conservative Council faction would pay handsomely to ensure this artifact never returns to Valdurian space, Zara explained. They believe our isolation protects our cultural purity. As they penetrated deeper into the nebula, conditions deteriorated rapidly. Radiation alarms blared as charged particles bombarded the hull. The view screen automatically darkened to protect their vision from sudden energy flares. Navigation became increasingly difficult as their stellar positioning system failed completely. Your calculations suggested we'd maintain minimal guidance systems for another 60 kilometers. Maya shouted over the alarm klaxons. Zara's silver features tightened with concern. The nebula's composition must have changed since my last analysis. The energy density is higher than historical records indicated. The ship shuddered as they passed through a particularly dense pocket of charged particles. A secondary power coupling overloaded, sending sparks cascading from an overhead conduit. We need to turn back, Zara stated, studying a readout with growing alarm. The integrity field won't hold at this rate. Maya knew the Valdurian was right. All data suggested retreat was the only logical option. But something caught her attention through the view screen. Subtle variations in the gas clouds ahead. A pattern that reminded her of the high-atmosphere wind currents on Jupiter that experienced pilots used to reduce fuel consumption. With instruments useless, Maya did something that astonished her alien passenger. She cut all automated systems and took manual control, disengaging even the neural assistance protocols. "What are you doing?" Zara demanded. Those systems compensate for conditions beyond human reaction time. Maya's hands flew across the console with practiced precision. Sometimes machines overthink problems, she explained, eyes tracking the subtle variations in the gas clouds outside. See how the particle density changes color slightly along that vector. There's a current we can follow. Zira watched in disbelief as Maya navigated by sight and instinct alone, finding safe passage where sensor analysis had failed. The ship slipped between dangerous radiation pockets, riding natural channels in the nebulous structure that no computer had identified. Your species relies on technology so much, Maya noted with a grim smile, that you forget technology itself came from organic minds first. The ship surged forward, deeper into the nebula than any vessel had likely gone before. Maya felt the familiar sensation of being completely in tune with her ship, a state fleet instructors had called the pilot's trance. Time seemed to slow as her perception heightened, allowing her to anticipate energy fluctuations milliseconds before they occurred. There, Maya said suddenly, pointing to a dark mass becoming visible at the heart of the nebula. Is that our destination? Zira nodded, her expression a mixture of shock and newfound respect. The asteroid sanctuary. You found it, through impossible conditions. Not impossible, Maya corrected, guiding the ship toward the asteroid with delicate adjustments. Just needed a human touch. The asteroid that housed the artifact floated in relative calm at the nebula's heart, its surface carved with symbols that predated modern Valdurian language. Maya guided the horizon's edge into a natural depression that served as a makeshift docking area, the landing struts adjusting automatically to the uneven terrain. Atmosphere readings, Maya asked, powering down the engines but keeping life support and defensive systems online. Thin but breathable, Zira confirmed, studying her scanner. Temperatures within human tolerance range. The sanctuary was designed to preserve both artifacts and visitors. As Maya prepared for departure, a flashing alert on the sensor display caught her attention. We have company, she warned, highlighting a section of the screen. There's another ship docked on the far side of the asteroid. Zira moved closer, her silver skin reflecting the console's red warning lights. Mercenary vessel. Council hired, most likely. We must hurry. Maya retrieved her pulse pistol from the weapons locker, checking its charge before securing it to her hip. I thought you said this place was hidden from your people. For most, yes, but those with access to ancient archives. Zaire left the implication hanging as she gathered her equipment. The interior of the asteroid revealed itself as a labyrinth of chambers, forcing them to navigate by the light of Zura's palm device. The architecture blended natural rock formations with precisely carved passages, creating a space that felt simultaneously ancient and timeless. How old is this place? Maya whispered, noting the perfect symmetry of certain archways despite millennia of exposure. Construction dates back approximately 8,000 of your years, Zira replied, before the great division of Valdurian society. They paused at an intersection, listening for sounds of the mercenaries. Zira indicated a narrow passage to their right. This way leads to the central chamber. As they moved deeper into the sanctuary, Maya noticed unusual markings alongside the Valdurian symbols, patterns that seemed strangely familiar. Before she could examine them more closely, Zira pulled her into an alcove as heavy footsteps echoed from a connecting corridor. Two guards, Maya whispered, recognizing the metallic sound of combat armor, positioned outside what appears to be the main entrance. Zira nodded. There's another way in. These sanctuaries were built with multiple access points, specifically to prevent single-point blockades. They backtracked and followed a circuitous route through increasingly ornate passages. Finally, they emerged into a vast dome whose walls displayed star charts from thousands of years ago. At its center, suspended in an energy field, hovered a crystalline structure that pulsed with internal light. The data core, Zira breathed, approaching it with reverence. While Zira worked to deactivate the security measures around the artifact, Maya studied the ancient star charts. They depicted systems and stellar formations that matched no modern maps, suggesting either incredible age or an entirely different mapping methodology. Zira extended her hand to interface with the controls, her expression shifting from anticipation to confusion to disappointment. "It's damaged," she revealed, voice hollow with defeat. "Entire knowledge sectors have degraded or been removed. Without them, the core is essentially useless." While Zira examined the artifact, Maya noticed something unusual along the chamber's perimeter, a separate control panel marked with distinctly human characters alongside Valdurian symbols. "Zira," she called softly, "these inscriptions are in Old Earth standard. Humans have been here before." Zira joined her, staring at the panel with obvious shock. Impossible. No record exists of human-Valdurian cooperation from this era. Maya ran her fingers over the faded inscription. "History is written by those who want certain stories told, and certain ones forgotten. Your people weren't always isolationists, were they? Someone wanted this collaboration erased from memory." Before Zira could respond, the chamber doors slid open with a grinding sound that echoed through the vast space. "And now we know why," came a deep voice from the entrance. 6 armed mercenaries filed into the chamber, weapons trained on Maya and Zira. The mercenaries spread out in a practiced formation, weapons trained on Maya and Zira. Their leader stepped forward, a Valdurian male with ornate facial markings that Maya recognized from Zira's descriptions as signifying High Council affiliation. "Step away from the artifact, heretic," he commanded Zira, his voice resonating with authority. "Your misguided quest ends here." Council member Vaxer, Zira acknowledged, her posture stiffening. "Still doing the purist's dirty work rather than thinking for yourself." Vaxer's gaze shifted dismissively toward Maya. "Consorting with humans now, your corruption grows more profound." He turned to his mercenaries. "Secure the artifact, then dispose of them both." Maya assessed their tactical situation in seconds. Outnumbered, outgunned, but not necessarily outmatched. The chamber's architecture offered minimal cover, but the mercenaries' positioning gave away their inexperience with the unusual space. While Vaxer continued his monologue about Valdurian purity, Maya quietly tapped commands into her wrist communicator, activating the Horizon's Edge remote security protocols. She caught Zira's eye and subtly gestured toward the human inscriptions she'd been decoding. "You fear what this artifact contains." Zira challenged Vaxer, buying time. "Not corrupted knowledge, but evidence that your isolationist policies are based on historical lies. Our separation from lesser species has preserved us for millennia," Vaxer countered. "Your progressive faction would dilute our culture with alien influence." Maya continued working on the human control panel, keeping her movements minimal. The language was archaic, but recognizable, coordinates embedded within the text. Coordinates to another location. "This data core is damaged," Maya interjected, drawing attention while Zira discreetly positioned herself. "Whatever knowledge you're fighting over isn't even complete." Vaxer approached, contempt evident in his luminescent eyes. "Humans, always missing the larger implications." The core's value lies not in what remains, but in what was intentionally removed. The realization hit Maya. The damage wasn't accidental. Someone split the knowledge deliberately. They wanted it found in pieces. Precisely, Vaxer confirmed, to ensure that only those worthy could reassemble it. He reached for the floating crystal. The Council will ensure it remains permanently separated. Maya's communicator vibrated against her wrist, confirmation that the Horizon's Edge had received her commands. She made eye contact with Zira and nodded slightly. "The inscriptions," she whispered. "They're coordinates to another location, possibly where the missing components are stored." The chamber's lights suddenly flickered as the ship's systems initiated an emergency protocol, triggering ancient security measures within the sanctuary. In the momentary confusion, Maya launched into action, years of fleet combat training evident in her precision. She targeted the chamber's environmental controls rather than the mercenaries themselves, plunging the room into darkness and activating the sanctuary's ancient defense mechanisms. Emergency lights pulsed in rhythmic patterns that disoriented anyone not familiar with Valdurian neural architecture. The artifact. Vaxer shouted as the crystalline core dropped from its suspension field. Maya caught it mid-air, the crystal surprisingly light despite its size. Zira grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a concealed exit panel that had opened during the security breach. "This way," Zira urged as they navigated the suddenly transformed sanctuary. They raced through corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves, the ancient building responding to the security violation. Behind them, disoriented shouts and misfired weapons created a chaotic symphony. Their escape to the ship became a desperate race, with Vaxer's forces recovering more quickly than anticipated. As they reached the Horizon's Edge asterisk, a pulse blast struck dangerously close, showering them with rock fragments. Maya initiated launch sequence before they'd even sealed the airlock, the ship responding instantly to her neural commands. The Horizon's Edge asterisk broke free from the asteroid's weak gravity well, sustaining damage as Vaxer's ship attempted to block their departure. "We need those coordinates," Zira said urgently as their ship shuddered under enemy fire. Maya transferred the deciphered location to the navigation system. "Already done. And we're not running home," she announced, engaging the quantum drive. "We're finishing this." The coordinates led them to an abandoned space station drifting at the nebula's edge. Unlike the ancient sanctuary, this structure bore unmistakable signs of human engineering, modular construction, practical rather than ceremonial design, and airlocks compatible with standard human vessels. A research outpost, Maya noted as they docked. Early expansion era, probably 300 years old. The Horizon's Edge had sustained significant damage during their escape. Shield generators operated at minimal capacity, and the quantum drive threatened to destabilize with each passing minute. Vaxer's ship had lost them in the nebula's denser regions, but Maya knew their respite would be temporary. "We need to hurry," she said, securing an environment suit. "This station likely has minimal life support, if any." They entered through an emergency airlock, the station's interior dark, except for a few emergency lights that had somehow maintained power over centuries. Dust floated in the low gravity, undisturbed for generations until their arrival. How could humans have reached this region centuries ago? Zira wondered. Your species didn't develop reliable quantum drives until 100 years ago. They made their way to the station's central laboratory, where equipment covered in protective sheeting stood like ghosts from the past. Maya activated her suit's external lights, illuminating a sight that answered Zira's question. The laboratory contained modified Valdurian technology, merged with early human innovations in ways that suggested deep collaboration rather than mere imitation. But most striking was a sealed chamber at the center of the room, containing what was unmistakably the missing portion of the data core. This station dates back 300 years, Maya marveled, examining the logs. A joint human-Valdurian research initiative seeking to combine our technologies. Zira integrated the newly found components with trembling hands, completing the data core. The crystal hummed with renewed energy, projecting images and text that filled the laboratory with ghostly light. The great separation wasn't inevitable, she whispered, scanning the information. It was engineered by factions who feared losing power in a more connected society. According to the records, early human explorers had encountered a Valdurian scientific vessel near what would later be designated the Cerulean Nebula. Instead of conflict, their meeting led to collaboration. Humans offered intuitive approaches to problems that had stumped Valdurian logic, while Valdurians provided technological insights beyond human capability. This knowledge was divided and hidden by those who participated in the collaboration, Maya realized. They knew someday both our species might need to remember what we could accomplish together. With Vaxor's ship approaching and time running out, they faced their final choice. This knowledge belongs to everyone, Maya decided, not just your people or mine. Together, they activated the station's ancient communication array, boosting it with parts from the horizon's edge. The complete artifact broadcast its contents across all Valdurian frequencies, irrefutable evidence of a time when humans and Valdurians worked side by side, sharing knowledge rather than hoarding it. The transmission couldn't be stopped, even when Vaxor's ship arrived. The truth spread like wildfire through Valdurian space, igniting debates and challenging centuries of isolation. In the aftermath, the Horizon's Edge became more than a simple cargo vessel. Designated as the first official human Valdurian diplomatic ship, it began carrying representatives between worlds that had forgotten their shared history. Maya found herself celebrated as a catalyst for change, though she insisted she'd simply fulfilled her end of a repair bargain. Zira, now leading the new Cultural Exchange Initiative, knew better. "You humans have an extraordinary quality," she told Maya as they charted their next journey. "You repair more than machines, you repair possibilities." Maya smiled, setting course for the future they'd unlocked together. "Next time my ship breaks down, I'll know exactly who to call, but maybe we can negotiate simpler payment terms."